Human beings often fall into the paradox of life. The more we try to hold on, the more we suffer. We chase after love, success, fame, and recognition as if they were things we could possess. But it is precisely this attachment that gives rise to anxiety and fear. When we bind ourselves to other people, to ideas, or to expectations, we imprison ourselves in the endless cycle of suffering. Detachment does not mean indifference or avoidance of life. It is the realization that nothing truly belongs to us. And precisely because of that, we can be free. Everything in life is constantly changing. Relationships, circumstances, roles, and even the person we are. The more we try to hold, the more we suffer when things change. But when we know how to let go, something miraculous happens. Life begins to flow more gently, more naturally, no longer weighed down by the pressure of control. Like when we stand at a cliff looking out to sea, if we resist the wind, we become tense and afraid. But if we know how to lean with it, trusting its movement, we will feel comfort and peace. That is the spirit of detachment, not a rejection of life, but a harmony with its impermanent nature. The more we resist change, the more we suffer. The more we accept and release, the closer we live to the true rhythm of existence. Many people fear the concept of detachment because they think it means loss, coldness, or indifference. In fact, detachment is not abandoning life, but realizing that nothing truly belongs to us. And within that realization, we find freedom. When we cling to people, things, ideas, or identities, we only bring ourselves pain because all those things are always changing. The world never stands still. Relationships evolve, circumstances shift, human roles and perceptions continuously transform. The tighter we hold on, the more we hurt when what cannot be kept slips away from our hands. Love is the clearest example. When we love, we often fear losing, fear change, fear that the one we love will no longer be the same. From there, we seek to control, to impose, and unintentionally make love suffocating. True love is not possession, but cherishing and allowing it to be free. Like a river, it can only continue to flow if it is not confined in a narrow vessel. Similarly, in work and success, we often cling to results, fame, money, status, and lose the joy of the journey. A person who lives with the spirit of detachment still strives, but does so out of joy and action, not fear of failure or desire for recognition. They do not bind themselves to results, so they are not hurt when things change. Detachment does not mean stopping or being indifferent. On the contrary, it is the deepest state of presence. We live fully in each moment, love without fear of loss, act without fear of failure, experience without the need to control. When we stop resisting the flow of life, we begin to merge with it. And in that letting go, we find peace, freedom, and true strength. Humans create suffering for themselves not because the world is cruel, but because the mind clings tightly to things that cannot be held. We try to grasp people, material things, fame, or ideas, hoping that through that, life will become more stable and secure. But the essence of life is impermanence. Everything constantly changes, and it is our resistance to this flow that causes pain. Love is the clearest proof. When we love, we often want the other person to stay the same forever, not to change or leave. We begin to control, to fear, and love gradually loses its naturalness. But love is not a possession. It is a flow of emotion. It comes, nourishes us, then goes. When we try to hold on, we only keep anxiety while true love has already disappeared. The same applies to success. Many people spend their entire lives achieving fame, wealth, and power, but once they have them, they live in fear of losing everything. The joy of the journey is replaced by fear of the end, because everything, property, reputation, position, is governed by time. When we refuse to accept this law, we create our own anxiety, disappointment, and suffering. Even in relationships, friendships, family, marriage, if we try to freeze everything in a perfect moment of the past, we only bring ourselves pain. People always change, and if we do not allow them to, we do not truly love them. We only love the image of who we want them to be. Ultimately, even we ourselves are not fixed. When we lock ourselves in labels like, I am this kind of person, I never do that, we deny our natural growth. Letting go of rigid definitions of self is the only way to truly be free, to live flexibly and harmoniously with the ever-changing rhythm of life. Suffering does not arise from the nature of life, but from the mind's resistance to change. Life is always in motion. People come and go, circumstances shift, things are born and die. Yet humans try to cling, to force life to stand still. This act of resisting impermanence creates tension, fear, and pain. Like a person standing in the sea, if they fight against the waves, they will exhaust themselves. But if they relax and flow with the water's rhythm, they will find peace even as the sea still roars. Detachment does not mean avoidance, but a natural way of living. We let things come and go as they are meant to. When we love completely but do not possess. When we achieve something, we enjoy it without fear of loss. This letting go does not make us weak. On the contrary, it gives us deep inner strength because we are no longer controlled by fear. Detachment is not coldness or apathy. A truly detached person is not indifferent to life. They are fully present in every moment, unbound by outcomes or expectations. They love as one watches the sunset, without trying to hold the sun, simply cherishing its beauty while it is there. In contrast, those bound by ambition, love, or power always live in anxiety. They believe that once they attain something, they will be happy. But when they do, they fear losing it. They are prisoners of their own desires. Meanwhile, the detached person still has dreams, still acts, but does not let happiness depend on results. Detachment does not make us passive, it makes us active in serenity. When we no longer strain to control, we merge with the flow of life and experience true freedom, where the soul is no longer bound by fear, but filled with deep peace. Humans constantly crave stability, but live in a world that always changes. Therefore, the mind clings endlessly to temporary things, jobs, fame, possessions, even ideas of the self, to feel secure. Yet nothing in life is permanent. When we place our happiness and identity in things that can be lost, we make ourselves victims of suffering. People often say, I am my job, my status, my relationships. But when those things change, when careers end, fame fades, or loved ones leave, they lose direction, feel lost, as if their very self has disappeared. In truth, we are not what we own or achieve. Those are only temporary roles life assigns. When one chapter ends, we can let go to step into another, instead of clinging to the old image. Even in love, detachment does not mean leaving. It is loving without binding, cherishing the other in the present moment without demanding they remain the same. When love is trapped in fear of loss, it withers. But when we let it naturally grow, change, and even fade, we truly touch pure love. Detachment also frees us from the trap of ego. When we no longer identify with roles, status, or rigid definitions, we become flexible, free, and ready for transformation. Like a river that never stops flowing, humans constantly change form. Understanding this, we no longer fear change, because we realize that what we truly are cannot be lost. It lies in awareness, unbound by anything. Human suffering does not lie in what happens, but in how the mind reacts to it. Life is always moving. People come and go, circumstances change, things disappear, and are reborn endlessly. Yet the mind wants everything to stay still. It clings to the past, fears the future, and tries to control what cannot be controlled. This resistance to reality makes humans weary and sorrowful. When a painful event occurs, being hurt, betrayed, or losing something, the initial pain is real, but most suffering afterward comes from not letting go. The mind repeats memories, recreates stories, attaches meaning, and identifies itself as the victim. We believe that by holding on to pain, we protect justice or preserve something important. But in truth, we only feed our misery. Detachment does not mean forgetting or denying emotion. It is complete acceptance of what has happened, no longer fighting the past. When we allow ourselves to feel sadness and anger and then let them pass, we are no longer bound by them. The mind rests and peace begins to appear. This also applies to loss. When someone we love passes away, the pain is natural. But prolonged suffering comes from the mind's refusal of reality. It says this shouldn't have happened. When we accept that all life has an end, we stop clinging to the past and begin to cherish the present moment. Detachment does not make us emotionless. On the contrary, it allows us to live more fully and truthfully. When no longer bound by fear, regret, or resistance, we can love, hurt, and live naturally and deeply. Only when we stop fighting the flow of life do we truly become free. The human mind always craves certainty. It wants to cling to something, an identity, belief, role, or idea of the self, to feel safe. But nothing in life is fixed. Not even the self we think we are. Everything changes. Work, relationships, beliefs, emotions, even our thoughts about ourselves. When we cling to these things, seeing them as me, we create fear and suffering. Many people identify themselves with their jobs, positions, or reputation. They think their worth lies in what they do or own. But when work disappears, fame fades, or loved ones leave, they feel empty, as if their self collapses. In truth, the ego is only a temporary shell, formed from experiences and memories. It is like waves on the ocean's surface, always changing, but never the whole sea. When we understand this, we realize that detachment is not losing ourselves, but returning to our true nature. The deep part untouched by change. The detached person is not bound by their roles or images. They can change, adapt, and live flexibly because they no longer need to protect a fixed self. Detachment does not make us cold, but frees us in all circumstances. When we no longer fear losing temporary things, we can live more fully in the present. Like a river, we let life guide us, allowing all experiences to come and go without clinging. When we release identification with the ego, we realize nothing is truly lost, only transformed. From that awareness, we live lighter, freer, and more in tune with life's ever-changing rhythm, where peace does not lie in holding on, but in the readiness to let go. Most human suffering does not come from events themselves, but from the mind's attachment. When something happens, loss, hurt, betrayal, the pain is real, but it should only be a passing wave of emotion. The problem is, the mind does not allow it. It keeps clinging to the past, replaying memories, building stories, and identifying itself as the one who was hurt. This attachment makes pain last, turning it into suffering. Detachment does not mean denying emotion or pretending to be strong. On the contrary, it is deep acceptance, accepting that the past is gone, that nothing can change what has happened. When we stop resisting reality, the mind begins to calm. Peace does not come from forgetting, but from ceasing to resist. Think of loss. When a loved one departs, pain is natural, for love always carries grief. But suffering does not come from their leaving. It comes from the thought, this shouldn't have happened. When we accept that birth and death are a part of life's nature, we no longer cling to what is gone, but cherish what was. Detachment does not make us cold or distant from life. It allows us to feel everything more deeply, to love without fear, to hurt without drowning in pain. When we no longer identify with suffering, we see everything more clearly. The past is the past, and the present is where we truly live. Letting go is the art of allowing emotions to pass without imprisoning them. It teaches us to accept life's impermanence as something natural. No need to hold, no need to resist. Only then does pain dissolve, leaving behind peace, freedom, and a heart open to life.